And we're live. Ladies' night is back. Moff, you're up, buddy. Do the intros.
Ladies, welcome. Thanks for joining. Like we said before, we'll do a quick round of intros. It'll just be name, age, where you're from, what you do, and relationship status, and what made you want to come on the show tonight. I'll go ahead and just start with Kay.
Okay. I am 31. I'm from New York. I currently live in Tampa, though. I have quite a few jobs. I work remotely as a medical scribe. I work as a crisis intervention specialist. I bartend at 2 different locations as well. And I graduate this Thursday with a behavioral healthcare major with a focus on addictions. Contradicting, I know. But I want to just join just to see what this is about. My first podcast, never done anything.
Single, relationship, married?
I'm technically single.
Technically
single.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we'll ask about technically.
Do we have a situationship on our hands?
4 years going
there
on
we
5.
go. Oh, wow. All right.
4 years.
Yeah, jot that down.
Situationship.
All right.
Go.
Kat, what about you?
I am from Dallas. I'm 41. I am in aircraft insurance. I also substitute teach and will probably be teaching next year. And I'm kind of like Kay in a situationship.
An aircraft what again?
Aircraft insurance.
Aircraft insurance.
Not commercial. It's more or less personal.
So
Like an adjuster or?
No, just I'm in underwriting. I was in sales, but I'm in underwriting. Yeah.
Okay. So you insure people's private planes?
Yes.
That's different.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Cindy, round us off.
We got Cindy.
Yes. So I'm 29 years old. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. Permanent makeup artist, currently single. And sorry, what was the last question?
Oh, just why you agreed or decided to come on the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I've been necessarily in the red pill sphere for the last 10 years or so, but I mean, it's something I've taken a little bit of a penchant to, I guess you could say, for better or worse. And I've always kind of wanted to dive into it to kind of, I don't know, sink my claws in, so to speak.
Okay. How did you trip into it?
Well, I've been a pretty, I don't know if I would want to say a hardcore feminist, but I mean, I was a pretty hardcore feminist when I was younger, actually, like around 16, 17. Generally, obviously, going into any kind of online sphere, you're generally going to find those communities where you end up butting heads with the red pill, as I have over the past few years. So it just seems like it's been, I guess, like a love-hate relationship between us. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, okay. So you're still a feminist then?
To some degree. I mean, yeah, yes and no. I'm not too sure where I stand on it, but I mean, yeah, I definitely vouch for women's rights, I guess you could say.
Are there parts of the arguments that they make that you don't agree with?
I mean, not necessarily. I definitely say maybe the one thing I would not agree with is maybe the transition into very liberal relationship roles. Obviously, being Eastern European myself, I kind of take a more traditional stance in the whole like boyfriend-girlfriend dichotomy and what traditional gender roles are supposed to look like between men and women. So I differ a little bit in that aspect.
And what do you disagree with in like the red pill stuff?
Let's put it this way. I don't feel like I necessarily disagree with the red pill, but I do think that the red pill is used as a veneer for a lot of misogyny towards women. Let's put it that way.
What's the definition of misogyny?
It's the hatred and distrust of women.
Hatred and distrust of women. Okay, cool. I want to go back to the situationships, man. I always find those interesting. So what is a situationship?
Who are you asking?
Whoever wants to dump it on us first.
I guess you are 2 people who are not completely committed to each other, but committed to each other, I guess, without the status. Not allowed to date anybody else, go anywhere, talk to anybody else, be with anybody else. But you also have your free time, which I know it sounds really, really stupid. There's just no commitment in the end. And it's one of those situations. You need to get out because it's just not good enough. But you just kind of find yourself just in this rabbit hole of same stuff every other day.
Is Is it something that you aim to upgrade to like get promoted to a relationship, like change the situation part to like a relation part? Or is it like you want to get out of it completely?
I think for me, it's kind of past all that. Probably. I'm honestly just basically over it. So.
But Kat, you just said that you don't see anybody else, you don't spend time with anybody else, you don't talk to anybody else. So how is that different than a relationship?
I don't even know. I don't know. So I'm in this situation that I don't want to be in, but it's also like really great at the same time. So it's
what part of it do you not want to be in?
It's not me, it's him. We are, and I've been thinking about this a lot, we are a lot alike, culturally, mentally, politically, everything is the same. But I find with what I've learned with conservative men is that if they are not financially, mentally, just completely at a space in their life where they're completely comfortable to be the provider and the protector, they're really never going to commit. And that's the situation I have with this one. He is great all around, athletic, good looking, everything. It's just he has found out that he just turned 40 last week. And he just figured, he's like, I'm just so far behind in my, like, at my age right now that, you know, like, I need to catch up, and I can't provide or I can't be anything for anybody unless I'm at the place where I need to be. And so I can't.
So you're a few steps ahead of him.
Yeah. I mean,
find
I'm
that
a little
frustrating?
older. I'm older, so, but just by a year or two. But yeah,
You find that frustrating?
I do. It's one of those things where you want to struggle with somebody and build an empire with somebody instead of just like, you know, a lot of people just want to find this established man who has it all, and then like he just kind of inserts me into the mix. And although that's great, there's beauty in struggling and building an empire with somebody. And he just wants to be able to do it himself
Wants to do it
or
on
be
his own 2
established
feet.
alone. Because he had his own place. A year ago, he moved back in with his roommate. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. The fact that now he doesn't have his own space, right? I'm not sure how men feel about that, but
How do you feel about dating a guy that has a roommate at 41?
and if you guys knew who his roommate is, like he's a big time ex-pitcher for the Rangers. So it's kind of like one of those situations where it's like, okay, you kind of have to worry about what's going on. But I've been there so many times, nothing really happens over there, you know, because they're all older now. But yeah, people are always in and out. So,
But I'm still confused because it sounds like you're willing to try and be with this guy, and he's pushing you away. So it's not that you
That's
don't want to
exactly
be
it.
in it. So, but you're saying you need to get out of it.
I need to get out of it because, I mean, I'm selling myself short, right? Like if someone's not ready, then he's just not ready. And it's me and it's you guys talking to me. I hear it. It's 100% true. I just need to get out of it.
Well, I think he's lying to you.
Nothing is wrong. It's just that it's not right.
What part of the story do you think's a lie, Moff?
Well, I think the whole thing's fishy. I think somebody is. It sounds to me like it's the classic, you know, it's not you, it's me kind of deal. Oh well, you know, I'm not really established, and it's just I don't have time for this right now, and it's just, you know, you deserve to go and find somebody that can give you everything you need, and really, that's just not somebody that, like, you know, if a
He's never said those words to me. That last line, but it is basically kind of like that.
So are you
sounds
suspicious?
Huh?
So is his story suspicious to you? Like, do you think he's being truthful, or do you think he's lying?
Maybe lately it's probably a little bit of like lying, but more like before all that, it was never a lie, you know, like
Let me ask you a question.
we always
rather...
had like open lines of communications. We always had access to each other, but it's just like lately it's just kind of been really distant, which is, I mean, it kind of worked out. It's kind of working out the way it's supposed to. So I'm really not upset about it. I'm not.
Okay. Would you rather hear the guy say, "Hey, look, you know, I dig your vibe, but I don't see the point in
1,000%.
complicating this further by combining
1,000%.
lives, living together. Like, it's better if we keep separate residences." And
1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%. Just tell me. I always told him, just tell me anything. Just tell me and I will understand whether I like it or not. Just tell me.
All right.
And if he would just communicate how he feels or what it is, then it would make a lot more sense. But yeah, I'm to the point where I'm
say, Cindy?
so over it.
No, actually, I just wanted to maybe interject for a minute. Do you feel like sometimes maybe he's taking you as a free ride in the sense that he feels that you have very open, porous boundaries? So he's essentially just thinking that you're just perfect for being right wherever you are right now, but that's kind of the reason why he doesn't want to escalate anything to the future?
I've asked him about that. I've asked him, like, well, I just feel like I'm a placeholder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Because I
he
feel
literally,
like
like,
if a guy, I'm of the opinion that if a guy wanted to commit, that he would do it then and there.
1,000%. Yeah,
I
I
think-
absolutely agree.
I think it's a taxi cab theory that when a guy's ready to go, he's ready to go, right? Like in the snap of his fingers. I think if he's dragging his feet on it, it's because he knows that you're not, no offense, but you're not the right person for him. And he's just going to drag his feet just because you're convenient for the time being.
I absolutely agree with that. And I even said that to him as well. You know what I mean? We actually just spoke the other day, and he basically said, he's like, my views of the traditional relationship of a man and wife or a man and a family has been out the door. He's like, this world is so effed up that I don't even want to be a part of it anymore. So yes, I agree.
I think he's full of it, but yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Okay, let's come back to that. Let's just put a little bookmark on that and come back. I want to hear about Kay's situationship. Is it similar? Is it different?
It's different. I pretty much we met during COVID in another state, and I was like, I'm not trying to stay in that state. I'm leaving within about 11 months, and we have been together like probably the first 3 months of us. We started dating the first 3 months, almost 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, and he moved in, and then I was like, well, I'm definitely leaving, going to Florida, and we decided to pick up and go to Florida, and it's just establishing just jobs and just trying to figure out what we want to do, because bartending and the service industry just isn't it. Like, it is and it isn't. Like, the money is great. I only have to really work 2 days a week to make the amount that I make and to sustain myself, but it's not my personal end goal. And it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do, and he's still trying to figure that out.
Is he in Tampa as well, or is he in
He's in
New
Tampa,
York?
yeah.
Okay.
Is he about the same age? Is he older, younger?
He's 1 year younger.
And he lives with you?
We don't live together anymore. We
Okay.
broke up last year.
But you still see each other?
I'm here now, yeah.
Okay.
So you guys were together for a couple years, broke up, but you're still kind of together.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, we broke up literally probably last March. Probably spent maybe a week or two apart, even though we moved to 2 different locations. We no longer work at the same job, but it's just I'm either there or he's either there most of the week.
Are you also
Still
committed
going
but
dates.
uncommitted?
Like, we're committed. Like, we talked about it even just last night. Like, we're committed to each other. We're essentially dating. It's just, it's the next step. Are we going to get married? Or are we going to break up? Like, that's just where we're at right now.
So you're in a relationship. You're just
Yeah.
not in a. You don't have a ring, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's just like we're together.
So why isn't he at the ring stage? Why isn't he giving you what you want?
I think it's not even mostly what I want yet, because I'm also just at a different place in my life. Like, it took me I was technically supposed to graduate in 2015, and I had maybe 1 upper division credit short left to graduate, and I walked away from it. So I had to find myself for about 8 years, and I feel like I'm still finding myself. I think mental health is definitely an important thing to factor into certain situations. So I don't think I'm also mentally there, and I don't think neither is he, but we know where we're at, if that makes sense. At least with each other.
Come see, come saw. A little bit. Not so much.
So I'm not also a traditional type of person. Like, I am also very independent. I don't really feel like I need a man.
I get the vibe that all the
you
gals
could
on the panel tonight are all independent women, right?
say. Like, I from what I could tell, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know them personally though, but
Okay.
so I don't want to speak on anyone.
All right.
But I'm also from New York, so I'm a bit different. I get that a lot here.
All right. Moff would know, right?
Yeah, New York girls or something, man.
Yeah. And
all
he's
right.
a Georgia boy, so
Okay.
north and south are a little different out here.
All right. Let's. Okay, so let's go to the placeholder thing, right? So, he's 40. Does he have any kids?
Nope.
Does he want kids?
He
Or is
did.
the world too just fucked up for
He
that?
did. I already have one. Mine's almost 22, so I'm way past that stage.
Okay, so you don't want
He
any more
does want
kids.
kids. He did want kids. He doesn't want kids anymore. I think he kind of realized that, quote unquote, is a little too late. I don't know if it's with every big city, but here in Dallas, like if you kind of grew up in the city and you partied in Dallas, like kind of grew up knowing everybody knew everybody, you know, and everybody's business. And we kind of grew up in a, excuse me, very toxic scene. We didn't know each other. We had the same friends, but I think that we both grew up in a very, very strict household. Except I like left home a lot earlier than he did. So he figured things out a lot later than I did. So by the time he wanted kids at 37, 38, 39, you know, like women your age are just kind of past all that.
Yeah,
You know?
so the ship sailed for both of you at that point then.
Yeah.
So what would be the benefit of taking it to the next step then? Like, you know, moving past the situationship for either one of you?
Like, oh my God, like for the first 2 years, we never even got in an argument. Like, never had a disagreement, never raised our voice to each other, agreed with everything. Like it was just so easy. And I remember like even telling my friends, I'm like, I think that we need to learn how to argue and disagree because it's healthy, right? But then it just kind of just like snapped, and it just, we don't like to argue, so we just avoid each other for a while. So I think it would, if there was some, the next step, go back to us just like literally just not arguing, just being at complete peace. But I'm starting honestly to realize like he was probably more meant to be just like a really close friend, I guess. I think that's where we're moving towards, because we're so much alike, right?
How long have you guys known each other?
Go ahead.
How long have you guys known each other?
3 years.
Oh, not that long.
Yeah.
So you guys moved from 3 years of romance, honeymoon phase, to just friends?
I don't even know where we're at. We're like between the honeymoon phase and friends.
Well, it sounds to me like you're just like more in the friend zone, or you're moving
Probably in the
towards,
friend zone. Like it's to the point where like we're both like whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like it is what it is.
You guys sleep
I'm not
together?
worried about it anymore, huh?
You guys sleep together?
Mhm.
Because that's really the biggest difference,
So
right?
like friends with benefits then.
Yeah, I mean, this.
But I haven't seen like we haven't done anything like that since January.
Ooh.
So it's been a minute since we've like done any of that because we've kind of like just
Well,
So you don't sleep together.
not anymore. But we talked about it. So it's just like this thing where it's just like whatever. Like honestly, I'm like whatever. Like I don't even put much thought into it. I've only started thinking about this whenever I started talking to you, Chris. But besides that, like I'm just kind of like whatever. There's so much other things I need to worry about. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise, if that makes any sense.
it's odd that you have easy access to each other for 5 months, but you don't indulge in it.
It's so crazy. It's insane. Yeah.
So that tells me that both of you are probably indulging elsewhere.
I even have, I mean, if he is, he is. Like honestly, I got to the point where I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Like honestly, I'm like, whatever. You know?
Okay. Moff, what you read on that?
It's so I know. It was
Whoa,
insane.
whoa,
I don't
like,
want to say too much either. But yeah, it's to the
Of
point where like
course.
I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
And at first, of course, it was really difficult, but
So, like, what's your ideal situation? Like, what do you want from a guy? Like, do you want to
I
be in a
definitely-
relationship? Do you want to remarry? Like,
I've never been married. But I do
Apologies.
believe in traditional values, like an old school man and wife or a husband and wife, house picket fence, the woman being submissive, the man leading. Obviously, a woman being independent, but also knowing how to be submissive to her husband or her man. I'm big into that. You have to, as a woman, hold on to your femininity. And if you wanted to be treated like a king, you have to treat your man, or treated like a queen. You have to treat your man like a king. So that's what I'm really, really wanting. But then, you know, with the way the dating world is working out, it's just not happening. Like my mom prays for me every day that I'm going to find a husband. She swears I'm going to die alone with cats.
but how do you reconcile those two thoughts? How do you reconcile this need to be independent, but at the same time dependent on a man? Because those
I
are
think it's
two
more or
pretty
less-
conflicting ideologies.
Right. So, and then that's where I struggle with, because I really do look for very strong men. Like I've dated like leaders, cops, The dude now is a teacher, and I've dated a golf pro who's not a pro golfer, but a golf pro. I've dated like men who lead. It's really hard for me to find a man who I really, really are attracted to because of that, right? Like, you need to find a man who is completely comfortable being a man, alpha, for lack of better words, but at the same time, he's also sweet and kind. So with me, that's what I struggle with. And like, I am completely independent when I'm not around my guy, but when I'm with him, I know exactly how to be one. You know, I cook, I clean, I wash clothes. I mean, take care of my kid. I do everything a woman as a woman role should do. So I don't have an issue doing it. I just have a hard time finding a man who is like that. And I find him once in a while. And he was like this, but everything.
Is there a shortage of like masculine men in the DFW area?
So I don't live in Dallas, and Dallas is a very bad city now. I live in the burbs. So masculine men, I'm like 15 minutes from the country. So I mean, you can find them all over. It's just in Dallas is where we get a little colorful, if that makes any sense. But then, like, I'm so like at the same time,
rainbow colorful,
huh?
Rainbow colorful.
The hair, I don't know. Like, maybe because I'm older. I just see things differently.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
They're also young. So I don't really even look. But when I go down there, I'm just like, oh my. I went to the Mavs game yesterday and I was like, oh my God. You know, but it is what it is. I mean.
Cindy, what's your read on the whole, men lead, women follow, masculine, feminine roles? How does that sit with the feminist in you?
Well, I would really say the way I would summarize my feelings on it would really be, if I'm on my own, then yeah, absolutely. The expectation would be to be independent, because obviously who else is going to take care of me? But obviously if I'm in any sort of relationship with a man, or even, I mean, this may even be a bit of a stretch, but even if it's like a friend with a man, like I always just naturally assume that the man is going to take on that masculine role, for better or worse. I mean, you're obviously free to do that, but that's just my outlook on it. I mean, even with a friend, for example, if let's just say he's taking me out for dinner or something, and then after or we go back to his place, I can help him tidy up. Not in any, like, this is completely, non-sexual. But I just mean in the sense that I feel like I just naturally follow that feminine role when I'm with a man. So I would expect the same from a man, if that makes sense.
Doesn't that conflict with the whole a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and men and women are equal, and all that sort of stuff?
I mean,
feminism has been telling women?
I guess to some degree, yeah, you're not completely wrong about it. But at the same time, I just don't see the purpose of having a man in my life if he's not going to take on a masculine role. If I'm being completely blunt, to be honest, I feel like if I'm going to have a man around, you're going to be doing manly things, I guess.
So how can you be feminist and also feminine when it's convenient? Like you're feminist when you're single, but if you're around a strong masculine man that can lead, and you want to enter his frame and you dig his vibe, then you go feminine.
Well, I mean, and I think that's really up to my discretion, right? Ultimately, it just really depends on whether or not I feel that in that moment, would it be more beneficial, I guess, to go more of a feminist route, or to go the more feminine route. And I just feel that in interpersonal relationships between men and women, the only way to have a successful relationship between a man and woman is if a woman just takes that submissive role. Otherwise it's going to be just nonstop butting heads. Nobody really knows what the role is, and it's just going to be a power struggle, because, well, if we're going, let's just say even 50-50, for example, well, then I obviously expect to be regarded as an equal partner in the relationship. But the issue with that is that realistically, like, men don't really like taking orders from women. Let's be real. Like, if I tell my man, don't go do this, go do that, we're supposed to be equals, he'll be like, well, you're a woman. Who are you to tell me A, B, C, D? Like, I'm the man. I'm supposed to lead, which I take a huge issue with, because if you're the man and you want to take on the dominant role, as the large majority of men in relationships tend to want, then I think that you should take on the majority of the responsibility as well. But my issue is that I feel like men want the authority and the ability to tell a woman what to do, where to go, what to say, how to dress, this and that, A, B, C, D. But then when it comes down to actually taking real leadership in a relationship, no man knows how to lead anymore. So it's like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Cindy,
no man knows how to lead anymore. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I get
don't
the
agree with
notion,
that at all.
though. I get the feeling that in a relationship you would have a hard time taking orders, even from a guy. I mean, I'm just going out on a limb here.
I mean, I don't know.
But I
I don't know.
mean-
I think I can.
What
take
makes you think that, Moff?
Because, you talk about authority or responsibility, but with responsibility comes authority, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so it's like, look, guy comes to you, says, I'm paying
Yeah.
the bills, I'm taking
Absolutely.
care of you.
Yeah.
But like
And I
for,
will
in this example, no more guy friends, no more other dudes taking you
Absolutely
out to
fair.
dinner. Which,
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know why you would have guy friends in the first place.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something else we can get into. But yeah, I don't know. Because this is something we hear a lot. Like, oh, I'm independent when I have to be independent, and I'm strong and independent. But when a guy comes along, then I just become this submissive princess, and everything's wonderful. And it's just not something that I think manifests itself in reality. I think that the way you act, the way you practice is the way you play. Like if you're going to be a dominant person, you're going to be independent, and you're going to exhibit domineering and sort of masculine traits. Like you're going to do that in a relationship also. I don't think that this idea of conditional femininity is something that actually exists in reality. I think that women that are feminine are naturally feminine, and they're always feminine. There's not this sort of like, well, I'm a boss babe at home, but then I can just turn that off when I'm in a relationship, because that's always going to have that's when that butting heads starts. It's not necessarily that the guy isn't pulling his weight. It's that your natural inclination is to continue to want to be that leader and want to kind of be that domineering force in a relationship. And if that's, I just don't think it's feasible or plausible to think that you can just turn it off like a light switch.
I would disagree with you personally. I think that realistically, I don't really think that there's a pragmatic way to really be the ultimate feminine woman in the Western world anyway, just because with the expectations that are placed on women nowadays, like you are expected to work, you are expected to pay your own bills. So as much
but who's putting that expectation on women? It's not men.
Well, realistically, if I need to survive, I mean, well, what am I going to do? Am I not going to work? Am I just going to
find a man?
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Okay, find a man, but even in order for me to get to that point, like there's still going to be those in between stages where I'm going to have to be able to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and be able to be completely independent until I'm able to find that masculine man for me to be like, okay, you know what? There he is. Let me finally step into my feminine energy, and I can finally just kind of step out of it. No woman wants to be in a masculine role. I think this is the part that the red pill doesn't really understand, is that no woman wants to be in this role. We're forced to take on this role. So
There's some truth to
I
what
wouldn't
she's
say
saying,
that we're
Moff.
forced. I think it's just a responsibility. Like
I think it's just
we're supposed to take
responsibility.
care of ourselves.
Nobody, no feminine will, like even me. Do I want to work? No, absolutely not. But do I
So let me
have
ask you
to?
this question. You said you're Middle Eastern. What does your father say about your? Sorry.
Sorry, you talking to me?
Yeah, you said that you're
Albanian.
Albanian.
Eastern
sorry.
European.
Eastern European. Okay, so what does your father say about the whole like mindset and situation that you run? Feminine versus feminist.
Well, I mean, you guys are probably going to have a heyday with this, but my father's not in the picture. My parents divorced when I was quite young, actually. He stayed back home in Eastern Europe, and my mom was the one who ended up raising me here. And we obviously had, I guess you could say, obviously financial issues. We obviously been due to being raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of where I feel like the deterioration of the nuclear family kind of started, is because I noticed all these problems happening because there wasn't that strong masculine role model in the family. Hence why, let's just say, like maybe problem A, B, C, D ended up happening in the family. Not to get into the dirty details, but yeah.
Did you have a uncle around or a grandfather?
No, I don't have any family in Canada, to be honest. It's just my immediate family. So I mean, yeah, I think that kind of forces you to obviously
become siblings.
Independent. But yeah.
Do you have some siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister and a younger brother.
Okay, so why did your mom leave your dad?
He was violent, abusive, kind of as Albanian men kind of are. And obviously, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty self-explanatory after that point.
Do you think that she might have done anything to contribute to the breakup?
I don't think so. I think it's just the way gender roles are in Albania is that they've taken traditional roles to the max. And obviously, being a Muslim country, that doesn't help in the least when it comes to women's rights or women's autonomy, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really have a lot of options growing up. Like, it's more so like you're 18 years old, you're expected to get married right off the bat. Like, first man is like the first man you're kind of stuck with. And once you're married for life, right? Like, if the guy is a drunk, if he's violent, if he's abusive, like, it's not really relevant at that point. You're just stuck with one man for life in order to protect the family's honor.
Okay, so you don't have any contact with him then?
No contact.
How do you think that shaped your opinions and views today?
Well, like I said, I think it has obviously forced me to become a lot more independent, obviously, because I don't have that masculine role model or energy in my own life. So I feel like I have to sort of overcompensate with my own masculine energy, obviously. But that's also why I feel like I definitely advocate for more of a, I guess, like traditional outlook on things, just because I do feel that at the end of the day, like in order for any relationship to be successful, it does require like a strong man leading the relationship and a woman essentially taking care of the home, and a man going out and working and providing and paying the bills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and taking care of the family. Every single time I've seen that sort of dynamic played out in any sort of relationship, it's always seemed to be successful. There's plenty of relationships, obviously, even from the old world, where people like they'll maybe not necessarily get married when they're super young, but they come from more traditional backgrounds, and obviously they're forced to stay with their partner, or for better or worse. But I mean, at the end, like you can see that they have a very successful dynamic at home. So
What do you think of the notion that you can have
just gonna
chivalry?
pause real quick, Rich. Let's get these supers real quick while we
Go ahead,
can.
throw 'em up.
Asham, $5. Thanks for that. They still reserve the right to change their mind, so good luck to whoever believes what she's saying. And then from Icarus, we've got $10 super chat. The feminist wants the man to lead as long as he does exactly what she wants. So basically, no responsibility on her shoulder while she gets what she wants. Otherwise, she doesn't want him to lead. So it's only good if he leads, if she gets what she wants in the end, according to.
Do you want an equal partnership, Cindy?
I would like to be heard in a partnership. I'd like to be respected in a partnership. But if I feel that my man, my husband, has more experience, more knowledge, more intelligence, or just anything that kind of gives him obviously more, I don't want to say competitive advantage, but just more of a, it just gives him the ability to just like be a man in the world. Like if I feel like a man has more experience than me, then yeah, I'm naturally going to defer to his authority, because I feel like, okay, well, this guy's successful. He's built his own businesses. He's done ABCD, whatever it is. And he's proven himself to essentially be like a high value man. Now, I don't really like that term, to be honest, but I'm just using it for lack of better terms.
So even on topics that you disagree?
That's a hard question, actually. I mean, okay. Well, I mean, when we say topics I disagree.
Well, we're talking about the ultimate authority in the relationship, and traditionally is the man. He's the final decision maker, regardless of what the decision is. So, being in a situation where you either go right or you go left, there is no compromise, and he says we're going right, and you think you should go left, are you going to defer to his authority and go right?
I mean, if I trust his sense of judgment, then yeah, I think I would.
But if you didn't trust his judgment, then you would revert
even if
back
you don't.
to the boss.
I mean, right? If I didn't trust his judgment, I'm probably dating the wrong person. That's kind of why you have to vet somebody beforehand, right?
Interesting. Yeah, there's this real dichotomy today that exists where women have like a strong yearn to want to enter the frame of a strong masculine leader that has his shit together, that's competent, that's influential, that is resourceful, that can make it rain, that can make money, that can solve problems, that has a good social network. There's a very long list of demands for a guy to meet for you to submit to his frame and be feminine. And then until he shows up, you're forced to be what culture and society and what I would call toxic feminism has forced you to become, which is strong and independent, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, you're right about that one.
So it's tough.
It is tough. Well, what else can you do, right? Life's tough.
What is the solution to all that?
That's a great question, actually. I think as much as good as feminism has brought to the Western world, I definitely think maybe it needs to take a little bit of a step back and kind of let, I guess, old school values come back into play. I'm just not really a fan of how, I mean, speaking for myself, as obviously being from Canada, it's very much like I talked about before, where it's like, again, like a guy will want to essentially take on that masculine role of trying to lead the relationship while simultaneously wanting to split all the finances and everything with you, at which point kind of leads me to believe, well, why the hell am I even entertaining you if realistically, if you're trying to force me to bend to your will, but that I'm still essentially paying my own way anyway? Well, why the hell do I have you around? What are you here for?
Because two people, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100.
No, absolutely. The problem is
You're
that
not going to go to a relationship. You're not going to go to a relationship, and like a lot of people say 50-50, but that's not it, right? Because you're
that's
not
not
going
exactly, absolutely. No,
right?
I
But that
completely.
equals 200.
Yeah, it's 200. So that's two people uniting. So if I'm at 80 at one point, or I'm at 120 because he's at 80, then so be it, right? If I'm at like 20% at one point, he's going to pick up the 100 extra 80%. So it's a union. It's supposed to be a partnership instead of, well, this is how I feel. This is, I'm definitely not knocking the way you think, but that's what's wrong with westernized feminism, is that we as women have expectations of what a man needs to be before we even jump into it. And that's not fair to him because he doesn't even know how we are, because Western women are pretty horrible. So we're like, it's really hard to trust us because we come with all these standards. And yet these, like, let's just say my dude, he's a teacher. Like, I'm completely fine with him making whatever he makes. But then there's a lot of women like, well, he's just a teacher, but he busts his ass every single day for those kids. There's a lot more value in that than someone who has all the resources in the world that is not a man. And I think that's the problem with a lot of westernized women, is that we see all these check marks and what society wants the man to be, and that's just false because nobody.
What are those check marks that society wants a man to be?
What I've seen is 6+, 6 figures, house, businesses, super fit, super athletic, and just good looking.
But these aren't imposed by society. I mean, these are long-standing standards that have existed for 100,000 years since humans first walked the earth. I mean, what women are attracted to in men is biological and it's inherent. It's not because of indoctrination. It's actually because the men that could gather the most resources and men that were taller and more fit were better providers and protectors and ensured the safety and security of a woman and her children from opposing and warring tribes. So, I mean, the standards of attraction have largely remained unchanged since the beginning of our species.
Attraction's one thing. Being attracted to a certain type, I agree. But as far as the way that a lot of women now, that if this man doesn't have all this, then he's not worth it. And
if you're not attracted to a man, you're not going to be with him. You're not going to be with a guy you're not attracted to.
Absolutely, but not every guy
end up being his friend
either, right? So like, it's not like my dad's 5'2" and the best man I ever known. You know what I mean? So it's not just height. What I'm just saying is that, but it's my dad.
Well, that's your dad. That's not somebody you're trying to date and take seriously.
Right. Someone did date him. Someone did have her. Like someone did date him. Someone did have her.
Let me ask you guys this. So
go ahead, Rich.
I've heard a lot of guys complain. So counter to some of the statements that I've heard tonight. Here's some of the complaints that I've heard guys say. You know, when women say that they want a man or they want a partnership or they want a relationship, what they're really saying is they want to be able to make 50% of the decisions, but contribute 0% of the money to the cost of those decisions. What do you ladies say to that?
Nope. It's a partnership. I put in, like, we just work together. Like, I don't expect my man to pay all the bills, and like it just doesn't work like that. Like, I don't expect that.
Let me counter that question. I mean, maybe it's not the right way to go about it, but let me counter that with another question and say, what's the value that a woman brings to a man in terms of a relationship? What is a woman's value to you guys?
It depends on what she brings to the table. Some women bring nothing. Some women bring some value.
But I mean, we're talking about it extrinsically, intrinsically. I mean, do you expect a woman to bring money? Do you expect a woman to bring personal values? I mean, character.
Well, I mean, women
don't. With a broke woman, for example, if she was a good woman, she was honest, she was loyal, she was humble, down to earth, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
I think men don't care how much money we have. Yeah, men don't care what we do for a living. Men don't care how educated we are. Men just want the loyal woman. Period.
Well, we use it as a screen mechanism. If I find there's a chick out there that's a lawyer or a high-powered doctor or whatever, I'm probably staying away from her, to be honest.
The thing is that men have noticed that women don't share their pot of gold with them, generally speaking. Yeah. There's some guys that are a little bit dodgy and, you know, they go around trying to milk money out of women sort of thing. But for the most part, guys that are kind of like on a purpose doing something, I think the complaint that I hear, you know, because women are like, yes, I want to be feminine, I want to enter his frame and, you know, submit to him sort of thing. But what they'll generally find from an experience perspective is, yeah, she wants an equal partnership. She wants to make 50% of the decisions, but I pay 100% of the cost of those decisions.
I don't know. I don't see life like that. I try not to.
Mhm.
I kind of just like I pay my way. If I go to a bar, if I go outside, I'm paying my own bill. We can split it 50-50. I'm not worried. I've got money. Like
I would believe that insofar as like if I'm dating a guy, then obviously it'd be a little bit different. If it's a platonic relationship, then yeah, obviously I would expect to pay my own way. But like if it's more of a romantic setting, then yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stick to
What
the
do you
old.
mean by platonic? You mean like
you don't
friends,
really
like just
believe that.
friends?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just as friends. Yeah.
Do you think that men
But
and
you
women
don't
can be
really
friends?
believe that exists, right?
What women and men being friends?
Platonic relationships between men and women, yeah.
I do believe if any man had the opportunity, they would absolutely take it. I think it's more just a way to.
So in what way is that platonic?
Well, in the sense that if nothing ever happens of it, then it stays platonic. That's essentially what it goes down to. Because if
Yeah,
it's
but they're always waiting on the
But if he's
sidelines for the
attracted-
opportunity.
exactly, yeah, the orbiters, whatever you
If
want to call
one
it.
person in the friendship wants to sleep with the other and wants more, that's inherently non-platonic. There's no undertones or there's no desire, sexual contact. I mean, that's
I mean, realistically, but
it's
it's just
always going to be there.
in those. I've just noticed personally in those types of situations where a woman, well, sometimes we anticipate something to be platonic, and then obviously a man ends up having ulterior motives. I don't really necessarily think that reflects on us, just because women, I mean, obviously being the gatekeepers of sex, we all will always have that barrier up regardless, right? Like we are not going to just go and have sex with anybody. It's not going to happen.
It's always interesting that the only platonic relationships that exist between men and then women is the one where the guy is paying for dinners and not getting sex. But there's no platonic relationship
Sucks to
between
suck.
men and women. There's no platonic. You don't call a platonic relationship where a guy's getting laid, not paying for the girls anything. Isn't that
Well, I
interesting?
mean, it happens all the time, though. I mean, realistically, if a guy's just out there banging the chicks left and right, and you have like let's just even say like a friends with benefits, like what is it, open relationship type deal, he's doing exactly that, isn't he? He has full access to you. He doesn't have to put any
Right,
work.
but you don't call that platonic. It's the inverse. A friends with benefits situation is the inverse of a beta arbiter, but you only call one of them platonic. I think that's interesting.
I mean, yeah, I guess I say it's platonic insofar as the relationship is never.
Your side is platonic. His side is not.
As long as it's
As
never
long as it's what you
it
want,
stays
it's platonic.
I think you can have friends that are of the opposite sex and it never go anywhere, and
It never goes anywhere. Absolutely, yeah.
and they don't pay for anything. None of
But
my
my
like, if I
argument
was
is
ever in
that
a bad
if there's a
situation-
sexual desire or if there's a romantic interest at all, then by definition, that relationship is not platonic.
If you
Because
have
there's
a
always,
I'm not aware of that.
there's
If
always
that's
going to
I'm not
be-
aware of what you do though.
then you should say that, and then we can cut ties. But
Yeah,
if they
Yeah,
don't,
but they don't do that.
but
'cause,
they're
I
not
mean,
going
their-
to say it.
Yeah, their strategy is really just to try to friend zone their way into your heart.
They friend zone their way in and they'll hang. The guys will hang around for years,
But
decades,
why wait
waiting
for
for that
years
shot.
though?
Because
you
they're
know about
nerds and they
Most
don't know
men
any better.
they don't have any better options generally. And they think watching Disney movies and they see all of these guys that friend zoned their way in Hollywood into, they just be the nice guy and she gets dumped by the asshole and guess who's there as the shoulder to cry on, and then she realizes he was the right guy the whole time. Oh, and everybody's happy in the end. And they think that's how reality works, and that's
Yeah,
not how it
that's
goes.
not how reality works. I don't know anyone that has that happen to them. I'm also coming from a
Well,
different.
but guys think that. My point is that's what a lot of guys think, and that's why guys friend zone, or they will hang around and they will take girls they're not dating or sleeping with out to dinner, and they will pick them up from other guys' houses when they get broken up with, and they'll be the shoulder to cry on because they think that's their way to their heart.
You ladies
I
have
don't think I've
no
had that
idea.
experience. Like,
Oh,
I
you
think a lot of
absolutely
people
have. I
friends.
guarantee you have. You
I've
ladies
If you
not.
have a guy friend, I
Let me
guarantee
just
he
tell you
wants
a
to bang
story.
you.
Let me just tell you a story.
He might have
I've
wanted
had this
to bang
call.
me, but when I've had conversations with my friend and broken up, and they don't be like, "Oh, you wanted to fuck with me," they just literally
Right,
are
because
like,
they know
"Are
if
you
they
okay?
get
Like,
shot
what can we do?"
down, that's the end of it. They're waiting for you
Has
to
a-
make the move.
Has a guy friend of yours ever bought you a gift?
No.
No,
Christmas gift, birthday
and I would not
gift.
accept it like that. I mean, like if it was for my birthday, if we all do it, I don't celebrate those things. So like,
Okay.
I'm
But
not.
have they ever
That's
offered
why I'm
you a
saying like I
gift?
think I'm just a little different.
No.
No. Like if I didn't have money when I'm talking about like high school friends. If I didn't have lunch money, my friend would do me a solid and let me get a pizza.
Okay.
But other than that, we're not exchanging
But you guys are
gifts
just
unless we're
friends.
doing a Santa thing.
Altruism
never
doesn't
accept
exist.
them, never touch them, no.
There's no
No,
such thing as
it's
altruism
like
when it comes to men and women.
Hilarious.
when it comes to that notion of like, we're just friends or like a guy friend, women have no idea how long men will sit in the shadows waiting, just waiting,
That is so
hoping,
crazy to
and
me.
waiting and
Weird. If you're
hoping
gonna sit
and
in the
waiting.
shadows
Like,
and
how-
wait, that's weird.
And when shit's not going well in your life, they're the shoulder there to cry on. When you need to talk to somebody about some difficulty, they answer the phone. When you text them about something, they are there. And they're just waiting and waiting and waiting for their opportunity. And at some point, they try to, shoot their shot. And you're like, whoa, I don't see you that way.
It
We're just
changes
friends.
everything.
I'm too old for you. I'm too young for you. I'm too whatever for you. And then they try to push them away. But Moff's right. Like the vast majority of these guys, they don't have any other game. Like they don't know how to approach women. They don't know how to seduce women. They don't know how to play their cards right, put their best foot forward. So the only game they have is be a nice guy. And nice guy game, as most women have experienced at some point in their life, is
Doesn't
like,
work.
Last.
I just
Yeah.
have friends that are also married, like guy friends that are married and that are out with their
That's
wives.
even weirder.
Has their-
They hang out with you. They hang out with you one-on-one as married men.
Yeah.
I didn't say I was hanging out with anyone one-on-one.
but you're
So
just
what-
friends.
what
with-
way
you're
are you
with
friends
married
then?
guys?
In the sense of like coming from New York, if I'm in town, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends. I'll hang out with you and your wife. Or I'll hang out with you in a group setting, like how wherever
Yeah, if
we
it's a
do
group
that.
setting, that's fine.
That's a
but
bit
if-
different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, that's
bit
what I
different
was
than
saying.
just
I'm
hanging
not,
out with a married
I'm
man.
not out here going on dates or going to eat with my friend. I'm not out here. Come
Mm.
on over. Let's do this. No,
I would
I think
consider
that's
those
where
more
it's platonic.
casual acquaintances then.
Those are platonic friendships. That's what I'm saying is the difference. I think it is a little weird if I'm going out to dinner with my friend. If we're doing, I like group settings, and if I'm coming home, we can all be together. And I would love to meet your wife. I would love to meet your kid. I would love to do all that because I'm a 14-hour drive away. Like, understood. But I don't think that. I think that is weird. I also think it's very weird if a man's just sitting there waiting on you to every once in
That
a
is
lifetime
so
change your
Well,
mind.
it's
Like,
because the
if you haven't
female
gotten it in a
experience.
year, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. It's because the female experience is I can bounce to any guy or I can get attention from another guy as easy as a guy can go to his sink and turn on the faucet and get water.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is for women to get attention from men. It's never been like that for the vast majority of men. And a lot of those guys, their only female contact is with their female best friend who they're waiting on for years or decades.
The
That's
vast
the
majority of
majority
guys,
of
when
those
they're on their
guys.
phone trying to seek the attention of a woman that they're attracted to, get crickets. Their phone is basically a box of crickets. A woman's phone, on the other hand, is basically a box of dicks. It's very, very easy for you to get a dude to respond very positively. Question for Catherine and Kay, because it was brought up earlier that no man knows how to lead. Are you ladies finding the same sort of thing? Difficulty with men being able to lead that relationship properly? Oh, we lost
I
Kay. You want
don't.
to pull her back in?
Hold on.
I'm
I'm going to
sorry.
take this one out and bring her back on.
I think she might have
wait.
switched phones or
Hold on.
something or clicked a different link.
Yeah, now she's back.
You back? There we go.
I don't
I'm not
see.
sure if you heard the question about men not knowing how to lead today. I think it was Cindy that brought it up earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't have like my guy or whatever he is. He or the guy, the old guy, like the guys I've dated had no problems leading. Like, and I just literally just
What do you mean by old guy or older guys? Like what age range are you
the
talking
one
about?
that the situationship, that one,
Mm.
or
The
my
current guy.
exes, they're all leaders, right? Like they always led, and I just kind of like whatever they chose, I just went along with it. Like, hey, I think that we need to do this or this. Well, whatever you want, and we'll go with it. Like I've never really had a problem finding a man to lead, but maybe that's because that's what I look for in a man. So if I find a man that's, for like a word, here's an example. I have a guy. It's awful. He's my son's dad's friend. I don't like him at all, but I asked him to fill out this document for me and send it back. Sent him the document. Hey, print it out, send it back to me, scan it, send it back to me. He literally just responded to the email and entered in entered the answers into the email. That's where I had to step in. Hey, you actually got to print it out, fill it out, scan it, and send it back. And I know that's a very, very elementary way of doing things, but that's not a man who can lead and a problem solver, right? You didn't follow directions. You didn't understand what I was saying. And I had to teach you how to do that. Although, I mean, it's something so simple, but why don't you know how to do that?
Or
And of
he
course,
could
there's
have
a lot
been
of things
leading
that
from
you
the regard
probably
of just saying, here's the information, you fill it out
Huh?
and bring it to me.
Say that again?
Or he could have been leading from the angle of, here's the information, you fill it out, print it up, and just bring it to me and I'll sign it.
Well, I didn't it was the other side of the Metroplex. I wasn't going to drive 2 hours away.
I want to try something different. So, Kat, it seems like you've dated high level guys, leaders, guys that are high level in their fields. What hasn't worked up to this point?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Or what's been the result of most of those? Are they mostly like the relationship you currently have? They just kind of fizzle out.
All of them just end up being like, I'm not in the right space. Okay, so I dated a cop during COVID, actually. Dated a cop during COVID. Background about him, he was heavily overweight before I met him. He lost a lot of weight. Been divorced a few years. She ended up turned into a lesbian, so I think that kind of really affected him. But he had 3 kids, and like he was pretty abusive verbally, but in the end he broke up with me because he literally said, I'm just insecure, I'm not ready for you. So it's not that that's huh?
You think that's the truth? I'm just asking.
Like, thinking back, there was a lot of issues with everything, like the way I walked, the way I talked, everything I did was wrong. I remember he was at my house one time.
How do you walk wrong?
Like, yeah, even if I walked wrong. But I remember he was at my house.
No, but how do you walk wrong? Like, I'm genuinely curious. Like,
I was walking up the stairs one day, and he was like so mad at me because I wasn't taking the right steps the right way. Because like I was wearing short shorts, and I purposely was wearing short shorts so that when we go out, other people would look at me. Like, that's
right.
Total insecurity, right? Like, he was old, but he was at my house. We were drinking.
So it was what you were wearing, not how you were walking.
That too. Like, he's like, why are you walking like that? Like, do you want your ass to hang out everywhere?
So you were seeking attention from people that was not your man.
Right.
We weren't even leaving the house. We were at his house. We were never going to leave his house. We were at home.
Oh, he was claiming you were wearing it for attention.
I was wearing it for that.
I thought you were wearing it out.
Yeah, I wasn't wearing it out. No, like, I'm not one of those, like, dress like that out. Yeah. But we were at the house. He was drinking. He got drunk, and he was drinking a Big Red, and it spilled on my sheets. And it was not a big deal, but I remember at that moment, I was like, if I would have done this at his house, World War III, 4, and 5 would have broke loose. So I just kind of like, it was just, I don't know, like.
That's a lot of world wars happening simultaneously.
Dude, he was god awful. Like, I mean, he reached out to me like a little while ago, and I just was going to respond just to say how he's doing. But it was just like, he was just so, he did tell me, he's like, I'm just so sorry, Catherine. You were right. You're a good person. You're a good woman. I should have just taken you serious. I just was so insecure. So I just didn't know how to act. And it was just, I don't know, Dallas and Fort Worth, like, we actually hate each other. Well, actually, Fort Worth people don't like Dallas people because Dallas is in Texas or all around Texas is known as a bougie city. So when we first met, because he's in Fort Worth, he's like, oh, you're a Dallas girl, so I know all about you. So it was one of those things that he already had this like idea of what type of person I was or I am or was or whatever. And I may look like it on social media, but it's not like that, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know. My mom prays for me every day, like I said. But she thinks I'm a mean person, and that's why no guy wants me. But
do you think a word soft is something that aptly describes you?
Me?
Yeah.
I am soft I'm soft in my relationship with my man and with children. But outside of that, my friends will tell you that I don't see you keeping your mouth shut, Catherine. So yes. I'm soft.
There's that thing again. There's that.
I know you're going to go to
that conditional softness and femininity, and I just don't get the sense. But I just don't get the sense that. Go ahead.
You know, I really know. Like, I really am soft. Like, I even told the guy, like, I was like, hey, the version you get, nobody knows. Nobody knows this version of Catherine, and like. He still doesn't know it, you know, but like
how soon into a relationship or dating do you let that side be shown? Like, how many dates do I have to take you on before
It
I get
doesn't
to
ever
see
show.
that
If
side?
you're a leader and if you're masculine, it never shows. Even if I disagree with you, I'm never raising my voice at him. I've never screamed and yelled at him, even when we disagreed. To
Right, but
like worse.
what I'm saying is though, is like there has to be like you have this shell, right? We'll call this your tough exterior. At what point does that come down?
It has like it just never really does. I don't know why or how mine doesn't come down. Like the assertive,
But that's what I'm
the
getting at, right? Like I'm getting
yeah,
at
I get
that's
it.
where
But
we're going.
I've never ever, when it comes to a relationship, I've never let that out. There was never a need. There was never an urge. There was just never. I just didn't do it.
It's
It was
probably
maybe because the way, maybe it was because of the way I was raised, right? Like my parents are Vietnamese and very traditional, and my parents have been together since she was 14 and however old he was. Like I see how they interact and how my sister is with her husband and how my sister-in-law is with her husband. And it's just like one of those things that we were just being Asian American or Asian, we were just taught that you're supposed to be like that when it comes to your husband or your man. And that's just something that I've always had. Like it's never something that I've kind of steered away from or want to steer from away from or want to get in a guy's face and battle him because it's not in me.
I understand where we're going with that. I'm going to get a couple super chats here in a second. I'll just say this, and maybe this is some food for thought. We've been doing the show for a long time.
Mhm.
The women that come on this show that are truly soft are soft on the show. They're soft all the time. It's in their natural
Right out of the
essence in the
gates,
way
right
they
out of the
carry
gates.
themselves.
Yeah.
It's when they're on camera, the way they talk, the way they speak. It's we can tell off the bat who is very traditionally feminine and very traditionally soft and sort of that place to land. And I just like I'll even say it like the softest woman we have on the panel tonight is Kay. I mean, just from that's my take and my contention on it so far. Maybe in the next 34 minutes, my opinion will be changed. But let me grab these supers really quick. Rich, I do want to make sure we get to this. Like the reason I brought on Cindy was because she commented on one of your Instagram posts. So I want to make sure we get to that about toxic masculinity. But we can continue to jam on this.
Yeah.
Let's get Leslie regarding the guy who sent an email but didn't follow the instructions to print it out. Top men are always very concerned with efficiency. So maybe that guy was only doing what he thought he needed to. Maybe not. Here's an interesting one. Please ask the guests when and what was the last time they did something wrong in their relationship and how they were accountable for that. Anyone can start.
Last thing I did wrong in a relationship. So.
And
how you were held accountable. I think that's the part he's interested in.
I think that's what they're really, yeah.
There's really nothing wrong with that one.
We could run till the end of the show with silence if we.
Yeah, the silence.
I can get
Kay's got
mine's a
something.
little bit difficult. I would probably say it's a little touchy. In a previous relationship, the conversation of race came up because my type has usually been white or Hispanic, and the topic of just that his dating someone in the South, it's very different. The word color gets used a lot. I'm not really comfortable with that word. I don't know what it is. It just hits the ear wrong. But I'm also from New York, so like no one says that up there. That just I don't ever hear that. I've been on this earth for 31 years. I've never heard that until I came to the South. And it wasn't like that his mother was saying it like that or like being disrespectful. That was just how she was referring to people of color. And it just it hit the ear wrong. And like I had to say like yeah, she can't be my grandmother like that. I didn't know how to really address it either. So I think I took the step because I felt like we didn't come to a resolve on how to address it. I took the step and warned my parents ahead of time that, the word might come out. She doesn't mean nothing about it, by it, but like, are y'all good? Like trying to get a feel for them as well, to protect them as well. I felt like I was wrong when I presented it to that person, that I probably should have had that conversation and we should have resolved it from the get-go. Because when I brought it up, I was just joking. Even my parents made a joke about it and they took it completely wrong, as if like I called their family racist and put them in a bad light. I was like, whoa, I never said that. That's not even how we felt. That's not the case. It's just we understand times are different, and like that's just not a word that a lot of people are comfortable with. So when he blew up on me, took a couple moments, and I realized I probably could have handled that situation better, and also probably could have just approached him better and probably done it together. So I think that was probably the most recent, if anything, that would happen that I was wrong for. I felt like I was wrong.
Does that
Even though the
satisfy
premise
Icarus?
of it was like, I still felt uncomfortable and I still needed to be addressed. I did feel like that's just such a touchy situation. It's hard to approach.
Okay.
All right.
You happy with that, Moff? You want to do the toxic masculinity bit?
Well, I was gonna wait for the other ladies to answer, unless
okay.
there
Go
was,
ahead, ladies.
I have
there
one.
wasn't anything.
I have one. The relationship I had with the cop, with the ex-wife, and it's so is this something I could have, if I really thought about it, I could have addressed it differently, but it was him trying to like cause problems. I would go to the house. He would have me come to his house after the wife and kids would leave, right? So that was great, because that's the way it should work for the longest. But there was one time he told me to go ahead and be on my way, and I was like, "Well, has she picked up the kids yet? No, she'll be here. You know, she's going to be here in a little bit." But he completely like manipulated the situation and had me there while she was there. The ex-wife was there, and he had me go inside when I should have just stayed outside. And I was just thinking that, hey, you know, like at that time I was like, oh my God, he's just wanting me to introduce me to his ex-wife and the kids, when in all honesty it was absolutely disrespect on her part, on her, because you know, I'm this new chick with her kids and I should have respected the space way before, you know, stepping into the scene. So I could say that's probably the end of like our relationship, because like I really, really felt really bad for making her feel like she was put in a situation that she should have never been in. I should have never showed up that early. Like if I knew that if the kids were there, I should have just stayed outside until they all left. Because we were 3 months in, and I wasn't close enough to meeting the kids yet.
Okay. Cindy, round us off.
All right. I'm gonna go a little bit in, I guess, in the opposite direction a little bit, but I feel like my concern in my last relationship is that I was a bit too much of a pushover, to be honest, which is kind of ironic, obviously, considering you guys are telling me I'm a little
Extremely ironic.
Yeah, I know. Go figure. Yeah, so I feel like that was kind of my biggest hurdle last time. I felt like my mistake was I was being submissive for a man who did not deserve my submission. And I feel like that's where a lot of the relationship issues kind of came into play, just simply for the fact because I feel that when a man already has you in a relationship, he's not really inspired to go after his dreams, his goals, his ambitions, or anything. He becomes very lazy. He becomes complacent, and he essentially thinks, "Well, I've got whatever I need to get, so now I can essentially rest on my laurels and job is done," type thing. And that bothered me a lot in the relationship. I mean, how did I handle that? I didn't handle it well. Obviously, I broke up with a guy. So, I mean, for better or worse, is that the best course of action to have taken? Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think I still, I mean, in terms of accountability, do I feel like I did the right thing? Yeah, I kind of think I did, to be honest. I mean, it's to kind of go back to what you guys said about the whole conditional femininity thing. I think femininity should absolutely be conditional. I don't think there's any reason why it shouldn't be conditional. I think it's absolutely outrageous to suggest otherwise, because I just don't think that some men have like some guys have simply just not done the work in order to deserve a feminine woman. I'm sorry, it's simple as that.
It didn't sound to me like you're admitting fault or did anything
Yeah, admitting
wrong.
fault.
You seem very right. You seem very righteous about that.
I am. Oh, yeah, I guess so. I would. I think
this is amazing, by the way, Rich. I hope they clip this. This is incredible. By the way,
you're up, buddy.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I think the way I handled it was wrong, because I ended up letting my aggression kind of take over. To be honest, I do think that was the wrong approach to it, as opposed to maybe like an angle that you guys would probably respect was maybe if I sat down with him, had the conversation, kind of nurtured him through it, maybe that would have been the more appropriate response to take, as opposed to essentially just kind of jumping down his throat, getting mean, getting nasty, getting aggressive, and not really getting anywhere at the end of the day, being like, okay, well, fuck this then, I guess, and then kind of taking off.
Was he ambitious when you met him?
I was young, to be honest, so he wasn't really. I was 20, 21. I met him when I was 17, to be honest, and we were together for a long time. So ambition obviously wasn't at the top of my laundry list, so to speak, which is okay when you're 21, 22, 23, but then obviously 24, 25, 26, it becomes a massive issue, right? So I think it just becomes one of those things where you just naturally start drifting apart. You don't align on the same things anymore, obviously coming into the relationship as basically oversized children, I guess you could say. And it's just, you just naturally drift apart. I really
The
don't.
adult children statement. Yeah, that yeah. No, I get it. I mean, women don't want to have to explain to a man how to be a man, right?
And that's exactly what it boils down to. I feel like if I realistically have to tell you how to be a man, then I'm just wasting my own time.
Right. Okay. Toxic
Before we get to
masculinity.
the tweet, I want to just see a real quick litmus test on how sane or insane our panel is. Ladies, this is a question for each of you. I just need it's a one word answer essentially. If you were stranded in the woods, would you rather be stranded with a man or a bear?
Strange man.
It's not a trick question, I promise.
This is going to the whole grizzle thing or what?
No, it's
Whatever
no
that.
grizzle
I don't
or
know.
anything like
No,
that. It's just
it's a simple question.
genuine question that's being asked right now.
A man.
Yeah. A man, yeah.
Yeah.
Kay's hesitant.
She's hesitant.
I don't know. My heart would say with my man because I would want him to protect me, but I
Just strange man. There's a strange
Oh,
man.
strange
strange
man.
man.
You're a man.
Strange
you know.
man?
A strange man. Guy
man,
you've
not a
never
man
met
that you
before.
No, I want a bear.
The bears.
Bear.
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 Everyone's saying bear.
I would want a bear
It's a
Why?
strange man.
Why?
because I don't really
Why?
like.
Let's hear why.
people.
I'm just joking around. I would still pick the man at the end of the day. I obviously don't know how to deal with bears, so I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, Kay and Catherine know how to deal with bears, so I want to hear about this.
I would have better luck with the bear than with a strange man.
Why?
I just feel like get away.
You know what a bear is, right?
I know what a bear is. Yeah,
We're not talking about a teddy bear. We're talking about
No, I know.
big,
Yeah.
scary ass grizzly bear with fucking claws. Like,
I'm aware what a bear is. I live in New York as well. I've seen bears.
we're not doing like Winnie the Pooh peanut butter and honey sandwiches here.
I'm aware. I'd
Okay.
rather, but some men are very weird.
So you would rather
I'd
take your
rather
chances
take
with a
my chances
bear.
in nature with a
Women
bear.
would rather take their lives into their own hands with a bear than be
Wow.
saddled with a weird man.
Yeah, or a guy they don't know. And
That's how weird.
Catherine, it's the same for you?
Yeah, because like it sounds way off, but I'm speaking this into existence. But you can kind of like know what a bear it could or could not do. With a strange man, you just have no idea what his
Well, let me just be
bears
clear.
are either
Like,
going to attack me and kill me, or they're going to leave me alone. Or
it's probably going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
Whereas a guy, I think the chances of him doing anything is probably less than 2 or 3%.
that's
As
fair.
a woman, I feel like it's kind of hard because I feel like a lot of, as you guys said, men walk around with hidden motives,
Mm.
want more than just a friend with you. So like, if I'm stuck with you, I don't want to have to worry that you're going to touch me in
Wow.
my sleep. I don't want to have to worry about you doing anything that I'm not okay with. At least I know with the bear, I'm either going to get ate or it's going to leave me alone.
Well, that's
Or
what I
it
was
might
going to get to.
protect
She said
Women
Isn't
would
that
rather
interesting, Moff?
women would rather get eaten by bears than be uncomfortable with a strange man.
Yeah,
for a
with a
second.
strange
Sexually
man.
assaulted for that
I
matter.
think that's I think
Which on a balance of probabilities and
Death
you
is
know,
preferable even in that situation to sexual assault. It sounds.
yeah, and just to be clear, like this is like something that happens with less than 3% of men out in the general public. Like this is very rare. Whereas the chances of a bear doing something is exceptionally high.
Extremely likely.
I don't know if y'all. I mean, it's just kind of difficult as a man to speak for a woman being around another man.
Sure.
Oh no, we're just
Got it,
going
no.
but we're just going by the statistics. But okay, that answers the question.
Wild.
Let's move on. Indeed. All right, so this is a good segue. So this is how I actually got in touch with Cindy. I'll just read the tweet / Instagram here. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. It's a made-up term by mentally ill people because they want men to be something they aren't. Cindy responded, so men using aggression, violence, and force to dominate, threaten, or intimidate others isn't quote-unquote toxic masculinity. So men who beat or abuse women are just off the hook, ? So let's dive into
So
that.
what is toxic masculinity by your definition?
By my definition, I would essentially say it's using the use of force or aggression when it's not needed. I think a natural dominant man knows how to take leadership in any situation without having to force somebody to do it, right? I mean, I think that's a difference between a leader and a dictator. A leader is a person who essentially uses to go back to what I said earlier, their knowledge, their experience, their wisdom in order to lead everybody else around them. So everybody naturally defers to their authority as a man, versus a dictator who says, you have to do it or I'll cut your head off. I would say that that would be an example of toxic masculinity.
So I just Googled for the dictionary definition. It says a set of attitudes and ways of behaving stereotypically associated with or expected of men, regarded as having a negative impact on men and on society as a whole. It says in quotations after that, the destructive messages associated with toxic masculinity can lead to men feeling entitled to engage in violence against women.
Yeah.
It's got an interesting definition. It's got an interesting way that you sort of broke it down. But I mean, like, the thing is that the way that it's generally used by people that are pointing at men and saying that's toxic masculinity,
Yeah.
is not for that reason. It's for anything that they don't like.
No, and I understand. I get the whole blue-haired liberal feminist thing of just anything I don't like is toxic masculinity. That I actually definitely don't agree with. I think they're all completely insane. I think they've lost their minds, and I don't associate with those people whatsoever. But I would definitely say again, toxic masculinity to me is just someone forcefully trying to exert their will over you, right? Trying to force.
So it's a man with a capacity
Yeah, but that
for
happens
violence
all the time.
And that would be toxic. I would completely agree that would be toxic.
But what if there's a war? Don't you need men with the capacity
at what
for
point
violence?
is force? At what point is force
Are you
necessary
in war?
and acceptable?
I think context is obviously extremely vital in that situation.
Sure,
right?
it is.
So
where do you draw the line?
Yeah, so that's where it gets interesting, right?
If you're in a peaceful situation that doesn't require violence, violence in order to, I guess, not even necessarily to prove a point, but if violence isn't required, then you don't need to take a violent stance.
But I'm asking how you make that distinction on whether violence is required or not. How do you determine in the situation whether violence is applicable and required or whether it's not?
Well, okay, but there's so many different contexts that this could be put into. I mean, men versus women, there's no situation ever where violence would ever be necessary. Man versus another man, I don't know. Another man is.
Why do you say that? Hold on, back up. Why do you say that?
Why do I say what?
Why do you say that there's never ever going to be an issue where men versus women and violence is an answer?
I'm saying that there should never be a situation where violence is a solution in any dealings where a man is dealing with a woman. I mean, again, I think it kind of explains itself.
What about women that attack men?
You absolutely have the power to subdue a woman without attacking her back. That's absolutely doable.
So if a woman punches me in the face, what am I supposed to do?
Subdue her, grab her by the wrist, pin her down, do whatever you have to do, but do you have to punch her back in the face? No, absolutely not.
That right there is not that's not for me, a feminist, modern day feminism. If a man hits you, he has an equal opportunity to hit you back, because we are now.
I don't. At the end of the day, I'm not saying. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to stand 10 toes down on this. I don't think that there's any situation whatsoever. I do think if a woman puts her hands on man, then that's up to the legal system, the courts, the justice system, whatever, and to handle that situation. That's not on you.
Or if she has a knife.
So then what? You're going to punch her in the face?
I'm getting to the point. At what point am I allowed to use force to defend myself?
I think the average man, there's the problem with the whole. This is I think another issue with feminism that I think that they haven't really touched on is obviously the physical imbalances and inequalities between men and women. At the end of the day, as much as we want to say that we're equal, we're 50-50, whatever, that's obviously never going to be the situation. A man is always going to be more physically stronger and superior to a woman, regardless of how much we want to say, oh, no, it's okay. Like equal fights, equal rights.
But what if it's a man then? But if it's a man, it's okay. What if somebody...
Let me just pause you guys for a sec to sort of give you a little bit of a visual, because I did a search on Twitter for toxic masculinity, just see what would come up. And this is just an example of the typical sort of responses. So is this toxic masculinity? Because you've got men here touching women in a non-consensual way, right? She's sitting on the edge of the window. This lady's about to jump off the edge of the building. Firefighter grabs her in a non-consensual way. Same thing here. Is this toxic masculinity?
No,
Saving a girl's life?
It's not.
But it's forceful though, and it's non-consensual.
I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think you guys are definitely kind of taking it to the extremes. I think it's
But is it though?
in life or death situations. Okay, is there a reasonable expectation of force? Okay, yeah, maybe you could argue that. But I think in the majority of situations, it's not. That's not the case whatsoever.
Well, it does raise the interesting question, right? Because I mean, women want a guy to do stuff like this. You know, if there's a war, they call upon men. Like women don't go to war. They sit in an office, they punch a few buttons. You know,
That's fair. I
they're on the keyboard. Men are dodging bullets, right?
Yeah.
If there's a fire, it's men generally running into a flaming building, picking up, you know, human beings and carrying them out over their shoulder. Women don't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
So the point of the tweet is there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's just masculinity. The problem that feminism has with it, and why I coined the term toxic feminism, kind of in jest, is because if you don't like masculinity, that's when you call it toxic masculinity. It's only called masculinity when you like it, when you need it. When the hurricane comes and the floodwaters rise and the women and children are stuck on the roof of the buildings and the men come in on the boats and the helicopters and they come down on the cables and they pick the women and children up and bring them up back to safety, that's not toxic masculinity. That's just masculinity, right? So that's why I believe it's a mentally ill term used by people that are just trying to get men to be something that they're not.
So do you think that there are no instances whatsoever where a man is essentially overstepping his use of force? There's no examples of that whatsoever in history?
No, there's 100%. No, there's
There
100%
are examples
chance.
of that, but it's not toxic masculinity.
It's just rare though, right? Like men do things to women and have done things to women throughout history because they're physically bigger and stronger. There's also some arguments in Evo Psych books that it's a reproductive strategy as well. And they will take advantage of women in ways that women don't really want. But it's a very, very small percentage of men that do stuff like that.
I would like to.
I mean, you smirk, but what is the percentage of men that commit SA?
I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but I do think that it's a lot more.
What do you think it is?
If you had to guess,
I would say at least 30%.
1 in
I
3.
think that's also very different when
30%?
people admit that it's happened.
Well,
You have
so
to admit that it's
what's
happened.
the definition of a sexual assault in your book then? Like what would be like the bare minimum?
Bare minimum is somebody groping you, obviously. I think
Touching
that's
you like you're in a nightclub.
Yeah, inappropriately, obviously. I'm not talking about like a shoulder tap. I mean like actively like groping you, like whatever,
Okay.
your breast, your ass, whatever it is. And yeah, no, honestly, I really stick by the idea that I do think that 1 in 3 women have been sexually assaulted by men to some degree or another.
That's not the same thing.
I mean,
Now you're
okay.
conflating statistics.
I understand. But what I'm trying to say is that, okay, even if it's to some capacity, when women have always been at the receiving end of undesirable attention from men. I don't know, because obviously we're talking about both sexual assault, sexual harassment. I don't know where to draw the line in the conversation right now. But the point is that at the bare minimum, even if we're just talking about like sexual assault of just someone grabbing you like randomly, it happens all the time. Like I think you guys are underestimating like what an issue it actually is from the female perspective.
Big issue, yeah, it's a huge issue.
It's a huge
Like,
issue.
There's a big
Well,
difference. There's a big difference between saying 1 in 3 women have been sexually assaulted and 1 in 3 men have performed sexual assault. Huge
who's doing it?
difference in those two things.
I think there is a huge difference when you have stats that are actually accurate. So those
Yeah.
are stats that are actually just reported.
No, those are not the same thing. Like saying 1 in 3 women, I think it's closer to 1 in 5 actually, not 1 in 3. But let's just grant that it's one, and that's reported. Let's just grant that it is 1 in 5. That's not saying 20% of men are performing sexual assault. It's
But
saying
that's also not saying that.
that's not what the
that's
stat is
not
saying.
all
What the
reported.
stat is saying that the women are experiencing it. It could be a very, very small subset of men that are performing these attacks. Saying if you take a group of 5 women and 5 men, just because 1 in those 5 women have been assaulted doesn't mean that 1 in those 5 men is doing it. It could have been, or let's just say it's 3 out of 5. One guy could be doing 3 out of 5. It's not 3 guys out of 5. You see what I'm saying? Like these are not the same thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I think what you're what you're failing to realize is that 100% of assaults, or at the very least, let's just even say 90%, it's done by men. It's performed by men. It's
Yes,
not.
but we're talking about a very small subset of men. That's what you're getting confused. You could say that 90% of sexual assaults are committed by they're not committed by 90% of men. They're committed by a very small subset of men.
I think
That's
it's
the point.
I don't know.
So let me ask you ladies a question about groping. So groping would be like you're in a bar in a nightclub, guy walks by, maybe just sort of grazes your bum or something like that, right?
Yeah, I would say like a full on.
I think if someone touches me inappropriately that I do not know,
Full on grope.
Full on.
or even
The
just
grazing is just
So-
Grazes is accidental. If it's
Okay,
if it's
so all my life, I've always been in good shape. I've got a great chest. Women always put their hands on my pecs and they'll squeeze them.
You're being assaulted.
That's sexual
groping.
assault, then that's what you're
If you
saying. So
didn't
that's
consent to
groping.
it, that's groping.
Okay, so it happens to guys a lot too then.
It does.
I know. I've heard a lot of my guy friends talk about on the club. Like, that girl just grabbed me between my legs and took a chunk out of it. So I do hear a lot of men say that women do it a lot. So
yes.
I mean, I know.
Well, let's
women
not
do it.
pretend. Come on, let's not pretend that we care when a guy says that
Yeah.
to the level.
But
of
is
when
that
a
toxic
woman says
feminism
that.
or is
I
that
actually- I
toxic
do care.
femininity when women
I
grab
know that I do
grab men
care.
like that? Because
I don't like
hear
it
guys
either way.
complaining about
When
it.
a man does a woman does a man, I don't think it's completely wrong.
I
But
think
you're absolutely right,
I
Chris.
think what the difference is though
taking
is
it
that
serious with women.
when a woman does it to a guy, he's kind of like, all right, fine.
He's the man.
But when a guy does it to a woman, it's probably from a guy that she's not attracted to. Because let's be honest, if it's a guy that you're attracted to, you're probably not going to be too bothered about it.
I'm gonna be bothered by
I'm gonna
it.
be bothered no matter what.
For women, and
If I don't know you, there's no more there. If I was attracted, it was out the door.
Way too.
How do you explain the percentage of women that have sexual assault fantasies?
The fantasy at the end.
No, I think that's on them. I think every person is individual, but I'm also coming from someone that does behavioral health. So when I get those sexual assault calls and they don't want to report it, they just need someone to cry to, they don't always report it. So I'm also speaking on that aspect. So
Exactly.
I think if someone wants to speak on
Is
it,
that not reporting it?
no. When you call on a hotline, that is not reporting it. That is it's a violation of HIPAA if we breach that. We can offer help, but we cannot report it. It is their choice at the end of the day, just like it is their choice to go get an exam. It is their choice to go to the cops to do that. Like, I think we need to.
What percentage of women will actually go to the police and file an official report?
What percentage of what?
Women
I
will
think
actually go to the police
I don't
and
think
file an
stats are
official
very
report.
accurate because, again, that's all based on a quota of people that you have gathered.
But I mean, if you had 10
Do
women
we
call in and you talk to them on the phone, same sort of charge, like
Not a
how
lot.
many of them would go to the cop?
Not many would go to the cops.
Not
A lot of them, I couldn't even get past,
You know
where
what's
they
interesting
live.
about that? I had a cop in Europe. He broke down this three-step rocket thing that women use to basically cheat on their husbands and boyfriends. And what they'll do is they'll go to the police after they've had a night out, and there's other women around, so they know what she did, and she's afraid that it's going to get out. She'll go to the police and file a false SA charge, so that she can get ahead of it, so that when the boyfriend or husband finds out, she can say that she was assaulted and that it wasn't consensual. What do you think about that?
What does that have to do with the previous conversation?
Well, it comes back to the question that there's a level of, or there's a certain degree of manipulation here. It's like a lot of guys will deal with a false DV charge in a divorce, for example, because women know that it'll often get the locks changed and get them removed from the house, and it's a strong bargaining chip. Because we're talking about toxic masculinity before, right? So I'm just wondering, like, what degree of toxic maybe femininity or toxic feminism do women contemplate when it comes? Because I will acknowledge that there are men that will behave badly, that will do shit to women that they don't want, right? I'm not disputing that, but there's a notion that these things happen quite a lot to men, but I don't hear any acknowledgement or any ladies sort of standing up for the guys in that area. I'm just curious as to what your position on that is.
I think if anything, I don't know, speak for yourselves, but I mean, in my personal experience, I've heard a lot of women actually standing up for men more so than not, simply for the fact that it's just because, I I guess.
So why would women use the opportunity to file a false essay to cheat on their husbands or boyfriends?
You got to ask
I mean,
those women.
I don't know what
I don't
That's
think
up to that's up to those women.
Yeah, I
'Cause
don't
apparently
think
it's very common.
doing that. I mean, if you're saying that,
a lot of other issues are common too when it comes to men
80
reporting things that aren't true.
But I also
80% of
You're
the
tipping that.
hear me out for a sec. 80% of the reported essay charges to the police department were false, and they were doing them to hide cheating on their husbands or their boyfriends.
you
I
said
think that has a lot to do with
how do you
because
Sorry,
how do you
one
how
at
do
a
you
time.
Sorry, you guys go ahead.
One at a time.
I
I'm
mean,
just asking where you brought this up about Europe, and we're over here, so I'm just asking like
Well, I
what-
didn't have a cop from the States mail me these details. It was a guy
think-
in Europe.
every situation is also different. I can't speak on females that
No,
do
but
that. I've
humans
spoken against it.
behave relatively the same all the way around the world. We're very
Yeah, men and women
consistent.
do messed up stuff to each other all the time, especially in situations like that.
Yeah.
I've actually.
But I mean,
spoken
like, why
up
do we have this
about
very
that.
common label of toxic masculinity, but we don't have a common soundbite of toxic feminism or
We
anything like
should.
that?
I don't use those words, so I can't speak for
yeah,
them.
I don't use those words either.
I don't
Those
see
terms
them
either.
play into
But
labels. Like,
if
it's
there's
just
a
like-
toxic,
I think
yeah,
those women should be held accountable. In the 1% chance that a woman does file a false essay claim, then yeah, absolutely, she should be.
But they're never held accountable in family law, and there's been lots of guys that have
Impossible to
provided
prove in
proof.
court. How are you going to prove that in
Sorry?
court? How are you
I
going to prove
think
that in court?
they should be held accountable.
Well,
but I
she
think
can't
the local
prove
government-
that he did anything, but he's got video evidence of him doing absolutely nothing, and he still had the locks changed on the house. And he wasn't able to see his kids, and he was alienated from them, and he got a raw deal in the divorce. And this isn't like a
I don't like
one-time
that.
thing. This happens a lot.
yeah, I hear that. I hear that a lot, and that's absolutely not fair because
So why aren't we holding like the
We
same
should.
standards and using terminology or sound bites like toxic feminism or toxic
we
femininity?
definitely should.
It's not
I
as
think
common
we
as
shouldn't
toxic
say this at all.
masculinity.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't
But
use
we
toxic
definitely should.
masculinity. I don't
I
sit
do
here.
think
If you're a toxic person, you're a toxic person. I don't sit here and base it off if you have whatever reproductive organs you have. I don't really care. Honestly, that's why I said I think I'm a little bit out of this conversation just because I don't sit here and think about who's a toxic masculine man. I don't have time for that. I'm not gonna sit here and argue your opinion on it. If you want to talk about toxic masculinity, go ahead. Like, that's whatever your definition of that is. It is what it is. I just think some people are weak, some people are strong, some people are just they live life. Some people just do this, they do that. Like, everyone's individual. I don't agree with certain things. I agree with certain things. So I don't know how that transpired into how people are claiming false sexual assault. I'm talking about actual accounts.
Well, it's relevant. I've explained why
I
it's
never
relevant.
mentioned
So
toxic masculinity. So
sorry.
I never mentioned that. I don't
No,
really believe that.
you didn't. But Moff was bringing up the tweet that was posted on Instagram that Cindy had some comments on. So we're just part of a panel here, chopping up the different ideas.
But I think that being said, I mean, I don't think that acknowledging toxic masculinity means that I'm not also acknowledging toxic femininity. I think toxic femininity absolutely does exist. It does manifest in many different ways. I think the number one way of obviously being manipulation, obviously because as a woman, you don't have the physical strength to necessarily dominate a man, but I do have the power to maybe play with his mind a little bit, right? I think that's the power that women have over men that sometimes we tend to abuse. That being said, it still doesn't really... acknowledging that toxic femininity exists does not discount toxic masculinity either. I still think men still need to be held reliable and responsible if they're doing something that essentially steps them out of line, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, your comment to that post was sort of along the lines of associating the term toxic masculinity with
use of
things
force.
like SA.
Well, because you're denying that you're denying that it exists altogether, right? You're saying that toxic masculinity is non-existent. There's no such thing as it. It's just a term made up by crazy people who have no idea what they're talking about. I think you're completely wrong on it. I think it absolutely does exist. I think it's
But
completely.
the use of force has always been a mechanism by way the world has worked. It's just a natural evolution of human beings in the exchange of power and resources. It's just it is what it is. I mean, to sit here and try to apply some therapy speak sort of label to it doesn't do anybody any good.
I think you guys are kind of stretching the definition a little bit just to kind of.
But that's what you were talking about, right? You're talking about the use of force.
Yeah, no. But the point that I'm trying to get at is that if realistically, if a guy's abusing his wife, I don't understand how you guys are going to sit here and try to argue around that and say that no, that's not toxic masculinity just because, oh yeah, whatever, the men are just naturally forceful creatures, therefore it's okay and justified that they do what they do, right? If a
No, I
guy
didn't
sitting
say anything about it being okay and
Okay.
justified. I'm just saying it's a
Oh.
naturally occurring thing. It's just something that occurs in nature. There's no morality that's attached to it. It's neither right nor wrong. But I mean, I don't think it's generally. I don't think it's much of an honest statement to sit here and say that a man abusing his wife is toxic masculinity, because it's not. That's not how it. At least that's not how it's used as a colloquialism. Like nobody would sit here and like. I mean, we've got even a Merriam definition of when you see Gillette commercials saying let's take down toxic masculinity. They're not talking about guys that are hauling off on their wives. They're talking about guys that are,
Why don't we use that example from that commercial? Because in that Gillette commercial, there was a gal walking down the street, and a guy comes out of the store. She's an attractive woman, and he starts sort of like catcalling her and walking away, and then the other dude grabs him and says, "Hold on a sec, buddy." That's, implying like that's toxic masculinity. Right, like this is how it's being used today, right? It's being used to shame and ridicule and control men, which is the point that I'm making. Masculinity is valuable. It's always been valuable. When there's a fire, when there's a war, when there's a flood, when there's something that requires competence and strength and disposability, by the way, because men have always been disposable. That's why it's always women and children off the sinking boat first, and men, you figure it out. If you can swim, go for it. But like the term, I believe, is a term that's being used way too broadly and too generously too often by people that don't understand or appreciate the value of a conventionally masculine man, because the traits that allow him the capacity for violence, for example, to protect his family and his children. Also, there are some guys out there that'll use it for nefarious reasons as well.
It's using your power for evil, right?
But that's just masculinity. It has the capacity for both. Just like women have the capacity to be soft, nurturing, kind, and loving. And the other end of the spectrum, where you're
that
just
would be
not.
Toxic femininity, absolutely, and I agree with that. That there is absolutely.
But there's no coined term for women that alienate fathers from their children. There's no coined term for women that file false sexual assault charges because they cheated on their husband or their boyfriend. There's no coined term. I can go right down the list. Women do some really bad shit, but there's no generalized term that's being used today for that. It's just they're women, right? So why do we have to use toxic masculinity is what I'm saying. I think it's a made up term, and I think it's bullshit. So we'll just agree to disagree on that.
That's right.
We're at the 90-minute mark, Moff. That went fast.
Yeah, agreed. It's good.
Wrap her up?
Yeah, let's do it. This is our unsolicited advice segment where we just get to talk at you and you have to sit there and listen to what we say without saying anything back. No, it's take it as you will. Listen to it, don't listen to it. Take it to heart, don't take it to heart. I had a great time tonight. This is actually a really fun show. I appreciate all three of you coming on. As far as unsolicited advice, like I've kind of alluded to it a little bit throughout the show. I think this kind of goes for both Cindy and Kat. I think like the conditional femininity thing is going to be something that's going to be kind of a hindrance. Like Kat, I think part of the issue maybe that you be running into is that you are going for kind of these top-notch high-level guys. And I think one of the things we didn't get to is that it's pretty possible, in my opinion, that you are with men that have options, and whether they're exercising those options or whether they're not.
That's fair.
And that's just a natural part of it. You're going after high top shelf guys, and they're guys that get attention from women, and you're going to be competing. And so it's kind of like the catch-22. Are you going to lower your standards and go against your natural proclivity to get a high top man? Or are you going to be kind of in this sort of, when a guy is telling you things like, oh, I'm just too insecure and you just need more, you need better, like that's the kind of stuff that girls tell guys that they don't want to let them down and hurt their feelings. So like, oh, you're just such a great guy. I wouldn't want to corrupt you and shit like that. So I would say like, I wouldn't buy a lot of what those kind of guys are selling when it comes to stuff like that. The fact that you've got a kid and is grown already and that you're going into a guy's life where he doesn't have to kind of play stepdad, I think that's a plus for you. I think you did say you wanted to get married, correct? So that's still something that's on the table for you. I think that you find a guy that's a little bit older that, maybe is kind of not looking to run around. Maybe he's a decade or so earlier or a decade older. Maybe he's in his early 50s. And he's kind of just looking for that, fun front porch life. Like Rich and I know plenty of guys like that. They definitely exist.
Yeah, the hard part I have with that is because I look so much younger than what I really am. So then I don't really attract older men like that because I look so much younger. Is that fair? Does that make sense?
You'd be surprised at the kind of girls that most guys are attracted to. Most guys, regardless of age, are going to be attracted to youthfulness and beauty and traditionally attractive traits. So I don't think you're going to have any issues in that department.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cindy. A lot of fun. I wish we could have got into it a little bit more.
Honestly, I could go for another hour and a half.
I know. I wish I'd love that. I'd love to have all three of you back, by the way. Like you're all welcome anytime. If you're interested, let me know. We can find another date for you. Yeah, would have loved to dive into it a little bit more. I think that given your plight, you still have some feminine aspects to you. I think that you're still a little rough around the edges. And I think that your answer to the accountability question is certainly interesting, and we're going to get a good clip off of that one. So appreciate that. Sure. But you're welcome back anytime. And Kay, listen, I hope it works out. I know that, I think you don't necessarily subscribe to a lot of stuff that we talked about tonight, and that's totally cool. I think you seem to be more of kind of the sort of 50-50 route. And if it works, it works. I do worry. I don't know if I worry, but I do wonder that if somewhere down the line, a guy that's younger than you, potentially making not as much money as you, is that at some point, you may not look at that guy with the same kind of bright eyes, or you might not look at that guy as this is the absolute best I can do. And that sometimes happens, if guys aren't always bettering themselves. You got you can have more patience for a guy when he's younger and kind of coming up, but 10 years from now, if he's kind of in that same place and hasn't really figured out what he wants to do, I wonder if that's going to give you this alarm bell. It's like, shit, maybe I should have, chose differently when I was 31 or something like that. But again, you're welcome back as well too. And that's all that I have for the three of you.
That's good. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your graduation, Kay.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'm not going to add anything else. That I think was a great show, and I definitely would love to talk to the gals again. So thanks for coming on, and everybody do all the algorithm stuff, comment, like, all that good stuff. Thanks, ladies. Appreciate you all being here.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.